Welcome to Seattle College's international programs and our show Conversations With, where we talk to people that help you understand how you too can be an international student in the United States and why Seattle Colleges should be your first choice. We'll talk to students and staff and agents and government folks, all kinds of people about what you can expect when you're getting ready to apply or travel here, what you'll experience while you're with us, and how it can all lead to an amazing life. Don't forget to check out the Seattle College's International Programs website at intl.seattlecolleges.edu, where you can find a treasure trove of information about the school, the programs here, and best of all, fill out and submit your application. Again, that's intl.seattlecolleges.edu. Hey everybody, welcome back to Seattle College's Conversations With. Great day today because we are welcoming back one of our alumni from many years ago.
I know, right?
Wesley, how are you?
Good to be back.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's always home away from home. So
Home away from home. Well, tell the listeners where you're from, maybe your full name, and what you studied while you were at Seattle Colleges.
Perfect. So, hi everyone. It's always good to be back. My name is Wesley Tanoto. I'll just go by Wes. Originally from Jakarta, Indonesia. What I studied when I was at Central, it was a direct transfer program, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So at that time, I have a target school, and I know it's going to be in Washington. The other target school also has a lot of credits that are transferable from Central specifically. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason why I picked the direct transfer program at Central. And this was back in 2012.
Gotcha. So you did 2 full years here, or did you have to do a little bit of time doing English? I mean, your English is so good. I can't imagine.
Thank you.
Yeah. You probably didn't need to take any English before.
Correct.
Okay,
yes. Yeah. So I was lucky that I was able to pass the English proficiency test. So for those of you listeners who would like to skip that, College Bridge or the ESL program, highly recommend. Prepare for the TOEFL or IELTS or a Duolingo test.
Now we do Duolingo, yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you nailed those tests, ace it, so you save a good quarter or two.
Time and money.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So I spent, I'm one of the odd ones. So I started in spring 2012. So it's kind of like off enrollment. Normally we start in fall. Yeah. So I finished the program in a year and a half.
Oh, that's great.
I took 2 summers. Just to catch the transfer.
No vacation quarters.
Just like all the way through.
Right.
Exactly.
Wow, that's really smart that you did that. And then when you graduated, did you graduate and walk at the ceremony?
Unfortunately not, because I was graduating on the off cycle.
Yeah, because if you did a year and a half, spring, it would have been, you ended it.
Summer the following year.
Gotcha.
2013. That was,
You should come back. Have you ever been to the ceremonies? Because they're pretty cool, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've been to the one here at the Edison building. It was always cool. Right. There's one year, I believe it was down at Key Arena, now the Climate Pledge.
Yeah.
I'm mistaken because I have a lot of friends at Central. That's another thing, listeners. Like, you make a lot of good friends at Central. Highly recommend it.
It's true. Yeah.
And some of my friends who are my juniors at that time, they are like a year, I would say half a year behind when they started their program. I attended their ceremony.
Cool.
That's
so you
how
got to be a part of it. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, now they do it at, at least last year anyway, they do it where the Mariners play.
Oh, yes.
They do it at the field there, Safeco Field. So it's really impressive. Well, cool. So you did your time here, and then you transferred. Where did you go?
University of Washington. First.
Oh, you did? You went to UW?
I did, yes. I went there for a quarter. Wasn't able to get into the major that I wanted. Which was business at that time.
Oh, okay.
I got an offer from the Department of Economics. Long story there. We can digress later on, maybe on a different part on how I got the offer, because it was another good perks of being at Seattle Central. The faculty here, they can get you anywhere you want to go.
Well, let's go. Actually, if you don't mind, let's go into it right now. I mean, so you did a quarter.
Yes.
You wanted to go into business, but then you got...
I got into economics at University of Washington because one of my economics professor here, or instructor at Central, was an adjunct faculty from the University of Washington.
Right. And, a lot of people say, oh, community colleges, the quality of education isn't quite as good. But the truth of the matter is, guys, a lot of professors, faculty from the big universities also teach classes here. So you're getting the same level of quality,
Absolutely, especially at Central. A lot of professors from big universities like University of Washington's, in their off cycle, they always pick up some classes here and there at Central. I do have 3 professors actually from University of Washington
that also did Seattle College.
Exactly, and I've only been here for a year and a half at that time. So can you imagine if you do the full 2 years, maybe you met a lot more cooler professors.
Yeah. So this professor wrote something on your behalf?
That's correct.
And then they got you in.
I did really well on his class. And then he was like, hey, you know what? You had all the criteria, so you have good grades and everything. I wrote your recommendations. Let's go. But my heart is always set for a business degree, and that's a part of the big reason why I picked Seattle in the first place. It's a home place to, you name it, Amazon, Microsoft, Google's back in the days, Boeing, now Google, Adobe. The list goes on, right?
Right.
So I always wanted to experience being at the heart of corporate America, the modern corporate America, where it is very tech heavy, so I get the best of both worlds. Right. I always wanted to be in business, so I had to decline that offer after attending a quarter at University of Washington. I had a scholarship offer from Seattle University.
Oh. So you ended up transferring to Seattle or to University of Washington, but then you transferred again.
That's correct.
To Seattle University.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
That's
a great institution.
Very good institution.
You did 2 years there?
2 years.
And you got your degree in business.
In business. Exactly what I wanted.
So, after you graduate from Seattle colleges, you do your 2-year, get an associate's degree, you're able to do a year of OPT. Did you take advantage of that, or you just went straight to UW?
Very good question. I don't take advantage of the OPT. I wish, on hindsight, I would have taken it. Because that's another thing about attending community colleges like Seattle Central, right? We do have an OPT that are built into the associate degree.
Right, exactly.
Which I later realized was different from an undergraduate bachelor's degree OPT.
Right.
So technically it's like a quote unquote, for the lack of a better terms, a cheat code. So you have 2 years of OPT.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
I mean, unless working isn't in your plans or in your, then it's not such a big deal. But if you really are coming to the States because you want to get a little bit of that work experience or be part of corporate America or whatever, it's a good plan. But did you do OPT after you graduated from Seattle U?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. That's when I realized, hey, if I want to be a part of corporate America, I want to maximize the learning here. Another good advantage of pursuing higher educations in the United States at an institution like Seattle Central, it's exactly the OPT. A lot of different countries. I cannot speak because I'm not an immigration lawyer or an expert. I don't want to discredit other countries, but one of the amazing things of pursuing higher educations in the United States is that OPT. It sets you apart.
Right. And where did you do it? Which company?
It's actually a local consulting firm, a management consulting industry. Basically, it's a consulting firm, a business consulting firm based here in Seattle.
Okay.
It's very niche because a lot of our business are in Europe, actually, and out of state. But because of my degree, which is in international business and law specifically, I was able to get that job because it is so niche, and I was lucky enough to be able to get connected with the right employer.
Right.
And from there on, that same employer sponsors me for my work permit.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned law. I know Seattle University has a law school. Did you do law school as well?
No, it's actually at Seattle University. They do have programs in business that incorporates some of the law, business-specific legal law components to it in their curriculum. So that's what I've taken advantage of while I was there.
So the business classes you took here at Seattle Colleges, can you talk about what that was like? What kind of material did they cover? Do you feel like the material you got from those business classes here really has been practical for you later on?
Very good question. So absolutely, big time, because a lot of the classes, especially if you are interested in pursuing a degree in business, for example, at Seattle Central, it's going to be exactly the same with classes that you will take in a regular university.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So all those classes are prerequisites for things that you will pursue anyway in your degree at the university. So things here that I found helpful are my economics classes, all my accounting classes, my calculus class. You need to do your math if you want to be in business. Sorry to break it, right? But every fundamental courses that are prerequisites for those major electives, they call it, or classes that you will take when you pursue your major. I took it all at Seattle Central because you save a lot of money versus paying directly at a 4-year institution.
Right.
If you're coming from abroad, right? Because tuition is significantly different in a 4-year institution versus community college. And then the quality of the professor, like I said, it's stellar here at Seattle Central. I mean, I had friends from different community colleges. I'm not going to mention names, but Seattle Central stood out, and I'm not the only one. A lot of my friends who are in the same cohorts with me when I started at Seattle Central, some of them even ended up in Ivy League schools like, MIT and Harvard.
Really?
Right? They do.
I would love to talk to those people.
Yes. So I'll get in touch with them
Put me in touch.
Hopefully try to find
That's really cool.
a way. Yes, especially for their grad programs, right? A bunch of them actually goes to University of Washington because it's a great institution down the street. A lot of them goes to UC Berkeley, for example. Surprisingly,
it's a great school.
UC system and Seattle Central, I don't know what magic they do, but a lot of credits are transferable.
Yeah. Well, we actually, some of the UC schools we have tag agreements with. So
no
that
wonder.
is helpful for sure. Not all of them, but quite a few of them.
That's the reason why, yeah.
So you just said something. You said you had to take calculus. So
Yes.
business majors have to take all the way up through calculus?
Not Calculus 3, Calculus 1.
Oh, calculus
Yes.
1. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, I hope things are still working the exact same way because we have the placement test.
Sure.
So what happened was back in my days when we enter Seattle Central, we need to do one placement test. If you pass your English proficiency, you will do one placement test.
Right.
If you are specifically majoring in business, I don't know about any other disciplines. Maybe they do have other different placement tests. But for me, they only requires me to take a math placement test.
Okay. Yeah.
So that math placement test placed me in certain level, and from that certain level, you can pick and choose which math courses that you're gonna take to get started with, depending on your placement. So for business degree, you have to basically go all the way to Calculus 1 because it is required for some of the more advanced business courses like statistics, for example. Yeah.
Well, he keeps talking about back in my day. So what you guys should know is that back in his day, Seattle Colleges was actually 3 separate campuses. There was South Seattle College, North Seattle College, and then Seattle Central. And they were all independent of each other. But then a few years back, they merged. And now we're one school with 3 campuses. So whatever he's talking about, you can get the same kinds of stuff at the other campuses. And in fact, like at North Campus, you can actually do your entire bachelor's degree in international business now.
I heard about that.
You can save a lot of money.
Yes.
And stay in one spot. You can start in the community college side, continue your junior, senior year, and get your international business degree. I don't know that probably wasn't available at the time.
Correct. Yeah, I would have done that.
That'd be great. Yeah?
Exactly. Yeah, because the amount of savings that you will get, it's significant.
It is pretty significant. So you were you did your high school years in Indonesia?
That's correct.
All right. So you graduated from high school there, and you met Johan. Johan's one of our regional representatives. You met him at an education fair?
That's correct.
And what kinds of information did he give you at that fair?
So I still remember it clearly because it was, even though it's exactly 12 years ago, it was a life-defining moment. First time going abroad, born and raised in Jakarta, never been living outside of Indonesia for my entirety of my life. So
you'd done maybe a little travel around Asia?
Travel around there, here and there, right?
Okay.
Yep. So, but moving to a whole different country is completely different.
Big difference, yeah.
So the way we met was I was at high school at that time, my senior year at high school, and I was like, okay, I really want to go study abroad because it will open up my perspective and whatnot, all the fun stuff.
And your parents were encouraging you as well?
That's correct.
All right.
Yeah, it's a big part back then.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was like, okay, let's go to, do some more research. And after a couple of more research, of course, with thousands of schools, right, in the U.S. specifically, and even beyond U.S., right, that's a lot of options. You get fatigue. You get to make all these decisions. Like, how can I make the decision?
Right, it's hard.
It's really hard. So I was like, okay, there's this education fair that is going on that is close to my place. I'm just going to give it a go. And rest is history. We met there. We chatted over a brief 30 minutes period, pull up the program handbook and, like the programs that are available, talk a lot about the city because obviously for me and maybe for some of the listeners as well, the city is very important, especially picking a city that you want to go to school at. I know a lot of my friends who go somewhere in upstate New York where it is snowy and cold and miserable in the winter. Not that it's not beautiful, it's a beautiful place, but weather-wise, it can be a little bit challenging, especially for someone like me who comes from the tropics.
The Sun Belt, yeah.
Exactly, right? So they had to transfer. Some of them transferred here.
Oh, that's
from upstate New York because it's like I can't stand the weather.
Right.
Back in my hometown, it's always like 30 degrees, not 30 degrees, 30 degrees Celsius, which is around like 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right.
Based on that pitch that Johan makes on like, okay, you'll be in Seattle. I always wanted to pursue a business degree. I was like, where else could it be? Like, in the U.S. With the proximity to all these big growing tech companies.
Yeah.
And also, not to mention, Seattle is in the west coast of the U.S. Traveling to and from to Asia.
Much easier.
Much easier. If you are specifically from East Asia, a lot of flights, which is, like if you ever want to go back, a lot of options. It's a lot less time.
Did you do a direct flight from Jakarta to LA or?
No, it's actually Seattle to places like Korea, Japan, or Taiwan, and then Jakarta.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so
it's a long flight.
It's a long flight. I would say close to 20 hours, but now they do have. I know Singapore Airlines has a flight that goes directly to Singapore from Seattle. Super long flight, almost 16 hours.
Right.
No, 14, 15 hours, and then only an hour hop to Jakarta after that.
Oh, that's much better, but still, it's a lot of fun.
It's a long flight. Yeah.
So you looked at other cities, but in the end, you chose Seattle.
That's correct.
But weather-wise, Seattle isn't very warm. I mean, it's not New York cold, and it's not Alaska cold, but it rains a lot. So how did you adjust?
For me, what helps is when you focus a lot on your studies. I'm a little bit of a nerd. I'm not gonna lie. Back then, so I was just focusing on studying,
right?
Going to school, pouring all my coursework. So that distracts me a lot, and also having a good support system. System as in here at Seattle Central in particular. Remember at the beginning I mentioned about I met a lot of cool friends here.
Yeah.
Seattle Central has a lot of student organizations.
It's true.
So a lot of those student organizations can be culture-based or could be country-based, like a lot of if you're from Vietnam, for example, a lot of my friends from Vietnam actually have the Vietnamese Student Association here.
Ah, okay.
When I was here, I was a part of the Indonesian club.
Oh, they had an Indonesian club?
There was an Indonesian club here.
I don't know if it's still there. I don't know all the clubs, but...
Basically, right? Yeah. Anything that you can think of, there's a club here at Seattle Central, which is cool. Unlike any other community colleges, Seattle Central surprisingly has a lot of clubs.
Yeah.
At one point, I remember before I graduated, there are over 100 clubs at Seattle Central, and it was massive.
Don't think we have that many anymore, but we do have a lot of clubs.
A lot of clubs.
And if you don't have a club that you want, like, let's just say the Indonesian club isn't there anymore, I don't know, you could always revive it or start your own club. So it's pretty easy to do.
Highly recommend it, because a lot of clubs, if you start it, not only will look good on your college or transfer application, but also for your future employers, because that's a +1 points for leadership.
Yeah, leadership's really important.
Which is really, really important. Yeah. So yeah, that's how I cope with the crazy weather. I know the weather can be crazy, but Seattle is a very beautiful city. I lived here for 12 years, by the way, listeners. So maybe I'm a little biased.
No,
but
no. I mean, I think that it gets blown out of proportion. It does rain in Seattle, but it's not as bad as people think. And the summers are glorious. I mean, really beautiful. And the other thing is, I mean, you are here to study. So what better kind of weather, honestly? I went to school at the University of Arizona for my last 2 years. I started at a community college too. And when the sun's out all the time, it's hard.
It is.
It's like, I want to go play. So, you know, if it's raining out or the weather's not so good, stay in a coffee shop and get your work done.
Exactly. It's a very good place for really deep focused studying.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
That's the reason why, fun facts, I think Seattle is, among any other big cities in the U.S., is ranked amongst the most educated major cities in the U.S.
I'm not too surprised,
Yep.
And we're usually in the top 10 of most livable cities in the United States.
Exactly.
Huge Asian population.
Big.
African population.
Correct.
Lots of Latin Americans. So cosmopolitan. You'll feel at home.
Exactly.
But still get a chance. I mean, you must have made quite a few domestic student friends as well.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And that's, I think, another big reasons why, one of the major reasons, I would say, why I picked Central. It's the diverse students population here.
It's in the heart of the city, man. There's
exactly.
A lot of people,
I mean, we're talking about all my friends that are still in touch with me to this point. I mean, we have the common, countries that are visiting, like that are basically having students coming over to the U.S. But I have friends from Ivory Coast, for example, from Kenya. I have friends from, I remember one from Russia, one from Colombia, one from Bangladesh. I mean,
it's pretty cool.
We're talking about every single week. You can have a potluck with your friends from all different parts of the world, and you eat different kind of food. If you're a foodie, Seattle is a good place.
It's a really good place.
And Seattle Central is a good school to go to because, like, the student population here, just look at the statistic.
Yeah. Well, I got to ask, though, since you're from Indonesia, have you found a good Indonesian restaurant in Seattle?
We have only one here, but options are popping up. Okay. So I'm happy to report that there are a few spots that are popping up here and there.
You can get legit Indonesian food?
Not so much because, sorry all the listeners from Indonesia, right? Because
sounds like a business opportunity.
Exactly.
To start a legit.
Yep. For those of you who are from Indonesia, you know the quality of our food, exacting standards, right? We need to get the taste, right? We cannot get it here because of the spices and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just very
We have some
unique.
really good Asian markets in town.
That's true. Yeah.
Just down here in, I think it's Japantown or Little Saigon. There's a really great one. I live in Edmonds, but just south of us in like Shoreline, there's a really nice.
Yes, and Linwood too.
Yeah.
Yes. So Shoreline, Linwood up north is where you'll find all the Indonesian foods and restaurants. Hit me up. You guys can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you want to find me. You just say you're going to Seattle Central. We're friends right away.
Right on.
Then you can just ask me anything.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious now that you've graduated from both Seattle colleges and got your bachelor's degree.
Yes.
What have you been doing for the last 12 years?
Ooh.
I mean, what have you been doing since you graduated?
So basically a lot of things.
Okay.
I had the pleasure to be able to pursue a career in the U.S., something that I'm always very grateful for. So I've been working as a management consulting, doing a lot of digital transformation work. It's basically a jargon for helping business to use technology. Basically, I work with Fortune 500 companies or in in our terms, it's basically big corporations in the US and globally, help them to implement softwares and technologies, business processes, and help them run more efficiently.
So where did you learn all your techie side? I mean, you're a business major, but obviously you have a tech background
That's
too.
correct.
Where did you get that?
It's a lot of it because of the nature of management consulting industry. It's self-learned. So spend a lot of weekends learning about technologies and the process around technology. And right now, as a matter of fact, as this recording, I'm going back to school to earn my computer software engineering degree.
Yeah.
Quite a shift. But I do think that
it's a logical shift.
It's
that
a logical
seems to
shift.
make a lot of sense.
Yep. So I would say ever since the past 12 years, other than 4 years of school, it's almost 6 years of work and now back at school.
But I'm a big believer in lifelong learning. I mean, whether you're 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, I'm a little older. But yeah, you should just keep trying to learn more. The world changes so fast.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Yep. And especially after the pandemic, right?
Right.
Technology is kind of taking over. So it's good to have some background of it, right? So that's why I decided to go back to school.
Cool. Wow. Well, let me ask you this. So you came to the United States on an F1 visa.
That's correct.
But you've been able to stay. You said one of the places you worked for sponsored you.
That's correct.
That transformed somehow into, are you naturalized now or?
No, not yet. So the pathways goes like this. So I'm an F1 all the way through my undergraduate years.
Okay.
Through OPT as well. But after that, because for non-STEM majors, for those of your listeners who knows STEM, non-STEM, deciding which one to pick, especially when it comes to like prioritizing work opportunities. With non-STEM, anything non-science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, you only have 1 year of OPT.
Right.
So after that, pretty much if there is no employer who's going to sponsor you, you have to leave the country or pursue a grad degree. Right. For me, I was fortunate enough, even though I'm in non-STEM, I was doing an OPT at a consulting firm, and then they would like to sponsor me for a visa type called H-1B.
Okay.
So it is a professional working visa that lasted up to 6 years.
Oh, that's quite long.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I got 3 years and then another extension for 3 years, but I only use it for 2 years because I decided to start my own company and then, later on going back to school.
Right.
So I basically decided to say, hey, enough working at corporate America. Let's make a career shift. Let's gain more knowledge, and then so that I can grow my business in the future.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Was it a difficult process or a lengthy process to get that H visa?
Yes. It is a very complicated process, actually. It involves corporate lawyers who will help you, and immigration lawyers, who will help you to actually process the paperwork and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to clarify, I'm back at F1 status now. My business is actually back home in Indonesia. I'm actually taking a sabbatical.
Sure. Oh,
So
cool.
all my other co-founders are helping with running the business. I'm just focusing on school and reliving life as a student because the best part about being a student is you can only study and then have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of miss being a student. I mean, that's one of the reasons I got a job working with a school because I just love the energy.
Yes.
I love people's, they have goals and they're working it towards something. I think it's a good place to be.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. Can never go wrong with that.
So where are you doing the studying through? Is it through Seattle University or is it?
Currently?
Yeah.
Currently at Northeastern University.
Okay.
But the one in
Isn't
the
that
Seattle.
downtown?
Exactly. Salt
I know
Lake
what you're
Union.
talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
They have quite a few good programs. I don't know much about that school, but they have a lot of really good programs to choose from. So.
Yes. And the cool things about pursuing a degree in the U.S., especially undergraduate degree, right, is that you have that flexibility to also decide where you want to go, for your grad school here in the U.S. too, because you will be very familiar with your with the education system here in the U.S. And you will maximize all those additional OPTs that you will get from grad school here. Right. So if you really want to go to a place where not only you get world-class educations, right, but also opportunity to be able to get industry experience. I'm not saying U.S. is the easiest, country to get work experience in because it's a little bit challenging other than other countries, right? But it's well worth it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think if you're organized and you plan
Yes.
and you network well, it's always going to be a little tricky, but you can make life easier for yourself.
Absolutely.
Doing all those things.
You hit the spot on that one, because for me, what saved me in the first place, what got me all the school opportunities, it's just the network. You know people, you want to work hard, you plan diligently, and opportunities comes to those who are actually working hard and believe on it. So,
I agree.
yeah.
What do you do for networking now? Like, do you belong to the Rotary Club, or are you in the Lions Club, or do you do any community organizations? What do you do now?
That is a very interesting question. So the way I network is kind of crazy. So it all started in my senior year at Seattle University. So the context, it was 3 months before my graduation. I didn't land a single job offer. Applying here and there, but it's always hard to find a job as a foreigner and as a business major.
Sure.
Very generic, right? It's really hard to find a job. So I volunteered at a local nonprofit. It's a chamber of commerce. A lot of nonprofits here, right? And it's unconventional, but it works because a lot of nonprofit organization in the U.S. we do have a lot of successful people who works in a corporate actually give back their time by being involved in a nonprofit organization or charity organizations. As a student, all I can offer is help to organize events.
Hey, that's a big deal.
Right?
Yeah.
Typing up flyers or creating flyer design.
Yep.
Or, doing cold calls, inviting people.
It's a great way to know.
Right?
Yeah, it's really great.
Hands-on experience.
Smart.
It's not like, go make a photocopy of something.
No. You're involved.
Very involved. People who are senior executives or very high rank and very highly successful people in the corporate office who are volunteering their time will recognize you. And guess what? 3 months. I give myself 3 months to volunteer on my senior year. When I graduate, guess what? I got a job.
That's amazing.
I met the person at that particular organization who was able to say, hey, you seems like a good worker. I need someone who can, help me to monitor things and do this and that.
Right.
It suits with your major. Why don't we give it a try?
And you're like, okay.
Exactly. And that is what got me to meet my employer, and then.
Right. And you said this was the Chamber of Commerce, this Seattle's Chamber of Commerce?
So I do actually work, we do have the Seattle Metro Chamber.
Okay.
We're a member of it, but I am specifically involved with the Greater Seattle Chinese Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Because we do have speaker coming over to Seattle University, and they said, hey, I have this speaking event at this chamber. At that time, my options are narrow. I was like, anything that I can jump into as an opportunity for me to put myself out there to network, I'll take it. And they're gracious enough to take me on as a volunteer. And this year is my 9th year volunteering for them.
Wow. That's amazing. Really good story there to note. I think that's really good stuff. Well, we're at the end of our time here, but I like to always end the show with your wisdom. You've been here a long time. You graduated from here. You went to 2 other universities, University of Washington, Seattle U. You must have some super important piece of wisdom or advice to the kids back in Indonesia, or maybe even the region. There's a lot of countries in that area of the world. So what would you say, like, number one thing to think about?
I would like to phrase it as a scenario like this.
Okay.
Imagine if this is the old Wesley 12 years ago wanted to come to the U.S. What would the old Wesley needs to do?
Okay.
Right? So my advice would be to old Wesley and to everyone who would like to pursue higher educations in the U.S. or anywhere, right? It's to be able to understand what you really like.
It's a great piece of advice, but it's difficult.
It's very difficult.
20 years old, you're like, I don't know what I want to do.
Exactly. So the trick that I always use is the 4 circles. You guys can Google this, right? The 4 circle. It's what you like, what you're good at. What you like and what you love, it's kind of the same, right? So that's the first circle. What you're good at, what the world really needs. Guess what? After college, guess what? Everyone needs to pay their bills, right? What can you be paid for?
Well, yeah. Kind of important.
4 circles. Try to work on it. Just spend, a weekend.
Yeah.
Reflect on it. Just create a bullet points on each of those 4 questions. Find a common theme. Make a Venn diagram.
Right, Venn diagram.
The theme that is, or the answer that is repeated 4 times across different questions. That's what you need to think about as for your major or area of study.
That's a really, really great tool, really good exercise for you to do if you're young. I don't care if you're just a freshman in high school, something, because it can always change too, right?
Correct.
It's not static. You can always change your mind. And one of the wonderful things about school in the United States is that you can try something out, and if it's not really what you like, you can change. It's not like you're getting stuck in one path and then, my life, When I used to live and teach in China, and, those students would get kind of on one track, and that was it.
Yes. Yep.
And if they didn't like it, well, that's kind of too bad.
Exactly.
But here you can experiment, you can change. Try not to change too much because it gets expensive, but that's a really good thing. So don't worry about getting locked in. That's good advice, really good advice.
Yeah, and that will surely leads you to a path that you won't ever regret. I think that's the most important thing. You will end up doing great things regardless of what happened. And like what you said, Evan, earlier, the U.S., I don't know about other countries, but the U.S. is the only place I know of. That's why I keep coming back. 12 years, Wesley, you could have picked anywhere else to do grad school. Why coming back to Seattle and the U.S. specifically? It's because of that. It allows you to build the kind of life that you always wanted to, and it's a cool thing.
I think it's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, last thing is maybe saying a few words in your own language. A lot of people out there listening have never heard Indonesian. They don't know what that sounds like. So maybe you can just say a few things, whatever it is you want to put out there.
Perfect. I'm just going to say it in English first, then I'm going to translate to give context to the audience. I'm just going to say hello and some word of encouragement, specifically to those of you who are applying for and looking forward to starting their journey pretty soon, because I know the spring quarter is going to start pretty soon. Yeah, in about March, right? Late March. So I'm just going to greet everyone in Bahasa Indonesia. Wonderful. Excuse me for all our friends from Indonesia because
it's been a while.
It's been a while, so I'm just trying my best, okay? So here we go. So halo teman-teman dan semuanya di Indonesia. Terima kasih udah mendengarkan saya hari ini. Semoga diskusinya ini bermanfaat. Kalau perlu tanya-tanya soal sekolah di Seattle Central atau di Amerika, bisa silahkan follow LinkedIn saya di Wesley Tanoto. And that's my LinkedIn, Wesley Tanoto, right? Oh, cool. And you can publish it. I will just give you the link later.
Sure, thanks.
Untuk yang mempersiapkan diri untuk belajar ke Amerika atau ke luar negeri, semoga semuanya lancar, tetap semangat, dan semoga ada kesempatan untuk ketemu di sini. Kalau sampai di Seattle Central, jangan lupa mampir ke International Student Center, dan bolehlah nanti kapan-kapan ketemu sama saya di sini. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm just going to translate it. Basically, I'm encouraging everyone who are still applying and in their journey of applying. And I told them if they want to ask questions about Seattle Central, about going to school in the U.S., they can always contact me on LinkedIn at Wesley Tanoto. I'll just give you the link on that one. And if they got admitted to Central and they ended up going to Central, they're here, just visit the International Student Office, ask for Wesley, and we'll set up a meeting. I'll be more than happy to stop by and chit-chat with people.
Awesome. Wesley, it's so great to meet you, man.
Likewise, Evan.
Yeah, good luck to you. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys again soon. Bye-bye.
Perfect. Thanks, Evan.
Conversations With is painstakingly crafted for you by the Seattle College's International Programs Department and supported by the lovely folks here on our campus. This show is produced and edited by me, Evan Franulovich. We welcome your emails and questions about coming to Seattle Colleges. Please reach out to us via our website, or just give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, as this helps others discover the show. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube at Seattle Colleges INTL. That's Seattle Colleges And be sure to check out all of the shows here on Conversations With. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.